So our job is to distribute the cash in any form to those who need it.
Social use cases. Blockchain for emerging economies. Developing countries like India, Kenya, and others in East Africa are discovering a wealth of applications for blockchain which promise a secure, peer-to-peer mechanism for verifying information. Let's dig in. Moderated by Ania Poullain Majchrzak, Reuters. Jose Alejandro, Bitcoin Gold official. Stephen Meade, Monetapro. Alezander Borodich, Universa.
Hello, good afternoon. Hello. So we are after Econ, so nothing can go wrong with our panel. We've got everybody's attention. So we have a chance to discuss what can go wrong with adoption of blockchain in emerging markets, right? My name is Ania Poullain. I'm a journalist for Reuters, and I'm also working on a documentary about blockchain. It's called The Geeks Show Inherit the Earth, and you can Google it, Google the trailer. And now I'm going to introduce our exciting panelists. Stephen Meade. Stephen, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Lifelong entrepreneur, never had a job. I'm basically unhireable. Took me a while to figure that one out. The crux of my story, I read 357 books over 6.5 years when I was 22 and built a system called a bullseye belief system. I've used that system since '96 to build 11 companies, had 3 public, some worked, some didn't, and I like building things nobody in the world's ever done before.
Great. Now, Alejandro Regoso.
So I get involved in blockchain, and I am currently still focused all in Bitcoin and Bitcoin Gold. And currently I am working in its adoption, developing in developing countries. And I started with trading, then I helped to build one of the Bitcoin forks, and right now developing a new blockchain for e-commerce protocol.
Excellent. And I promised that we're going to have one exciting fact about each panelist, so you're going to remember us forever. Alejandro, what's the exciting fact about you that nobody knows?
Regarding Bitcoin, probably when I started, one of the funny things it was with me. I mean, me and my friends. It was a very interesting thing, as we had no money to use the Yacht Club electricity to mine some Bitcoin. So probably it was our beginning to start mining in our small boat with very small GPUs, and it was probably the funniest part of my Bitcoin life.
Excellent. And now we've got Alezander Borodich. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I'm the founder of Universa blockchain. It's actually the fastest financial blockchain in the world currently, faster than Visa. So we are printing the digital currency for the central bank. You will hear it as a CBDC stuff. And we have just yesterday launched the Tunisian digital U-dinar based on our technology. But before that, I was a venture investor. I have 5 unicorns. If you'd like to have the funny fact from my portfolio, it's 5 unicorns.
Okay. Can you share something special that nobody knows about you, Stephen?
Started 5 companies in the world where we're the first one to do something. Some of them work like a precursor to PayPal, and some of them didn't, like a romantic gift line of chocolate of people spooning. So,
okay.
Some work, some don't.
Okay, I'm going to tell you the story from my previous life. So before being here with guys like you, I was an entertainment journalist. So when I was interviewing Daniel Craig, he told me that he thinks that I think that he's stupid, and he walked off. So I hope it will not happen here with you guys. No, I've already researched, what you're doing and so on. So hopefully it's going to be okay. But social impact and emerging economies, we all know it's good. So what I would like to talk about here is like, what are the problems? What are the obstacles of blockchain adoption from your experience?
For me, if I can start, probably one of the biggest problems of too much offers. I mean, if you live in a country like India, you have, I like to see it like 3 big pillars go into crypto. You have CBDCs, you have Bitcoin, and you have all the rest of cryptocurrency that most people cannot even know how to manage and how to select from them. So, but considering that the biggest key points are Bitcoin and the central bank coins.
And Stephen?
I look at it more from a business perspective in things like supply chain integrity. If you have, and I use the example, it's not always the best one, if a kid gets sick and dies from eating tuna at Costco, everybody's going to get sued. And what blockchain's going to do is enable everything from who caught the fish to how long it was stored. You're going to have internet IoT devices hooked up to refrigeration units to prove the refrigeration was actually on. And you're going to find the points of failure in the supply chain. What that does to the emerging markets, it actually allows them to provide a premium on their product, to make more money, to have a bigger say in the value proposition, because right now the lower end of the funnel, these emerging economies don't have a say in the market because there's so many points in distribution. I think blockchain's going to push that control point down into some of these emerging markets, give them more control, give them more ability in pricing, lower their insurance costs. There's an economic value that I think the technology is going to bring to some of these regions.
So from your experience, can you hear me? So from your experience, what you're doing, which countries are you active in?
Well, I've known Econ and these guys for a while. We don't do a lot internationally because they're hard markets to break into. Yeah. Instead, we like to try and build technology solutions that other people can take into these emerging markets. And some of the technology is universal, some's very specific.
Yeah.
So we don't have a focus. We like to find people, again, what Econ and John and these guys are doing is fabulous. We tend to try and partner with groups like that to help them be better at what they're excited about, rather than trying to pick one area ourselves.
Excellent. And Alexander, from your perspective, you there is some exciting news about your partnership in Tunisia, right?
Yes, of course. But to the supply chain case, it's extremely important to understand that actually, if we will have the process digitized from the business part, and we will not fix the cash side, whatever it will be, cryptocurrency, digital currency, CBDC, it will be half broken. Because we have 2 legs. We should have the contract and the process digitized, but we also have to have money digitized just to interconnect them into smart contracts. So from my perspective, it's the huge challenge currently how to interconnect those business systems together to the financial system. Because currently there are 2 different forces. One, companies are trying to actually recreate the processes, creating those digitalized supply chain mechanisms. And others are trying to create the financial mechanism. But from the common sense, it should come together. Because we should have smart contracts where are some rules and some coins inside of that.
And how do you solve that?
We can solve that, but
Your company can solve that?
We can solve that, but of course we can technically, but it will require a lot of changes at legislation level, at regulatory point of view. So for me, it's actually question to the society and then to the governments to change from their point of view. How is it possible for us to get step forward from the paper process to the paperless, to the cashless society?
This is where the government is most concerned, is if you take a country like Zimbabwe that has tremendous natural resources, the natural resources have a commoditized value on the open market. You pretty much know what that value is, but you're tied against a $1 trillion Zimbabwe note because the government manipulates currency and inflation. The ability for a supplier to use a validated contract to prove they own that asset, sell it directly to a buyer, accept a digital unit that can be monetized, there's an entire fractional ecosystem that's going to disappear, of which some of that is the government that's manipulating currency and prices. So these emerging markets haven't ever had power. There's a direct correlation of of power and payment that I think this technology can help with.
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree, because actually there is actually starting the social impact, because we need, the government actually needed, using us as a technology, all of us as a technology, to deliver the value to the people, to the normal people, by, for example, UBI, Universal Basic Income, to deliver on the seeds, to deliver on the goods. If they have a lot of resources below the ground, then they can digitize it and then distribute it.
And you've got experience with dealing with governments, so what is your advice? Like, how did you manage to get the contract in Tunisia?
We managed.
But like, I mean, of course,
it took time. I mean, it took time. It took several years to come to the point when we can actually launch the digital currency using the blockchain technology. It's a huge step forward, but they do understand that actually we will leave cashless in several years, and we should upgrade our system, our financial system, not especially in one country, but in several countries, like Tunisia is a part of Maghrebian region. So they would like to interconnect Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, to have the transfers cheaper, to be able to actually make the cash and money available to the public, to reduce the corruption.
Yeah. What's the next country, sorry, what's the next country are you thinking about be active in?
The whole Africa.
Whole of Africa?
Whole of Africa.
There you go.
Okay.
I'll give a different example that I find fascinating with Bitcoin and the blockchain industry as a whole. Bitcoin, to me personally, is a unit of value. It's an investment. 98% of the world's population has never had access to financial instruments. They can't go online. They don't have money to buy one share of Amazon. Nobody's going to sell them one share. A brick of gold's $500,000. A gold coin's $50. They both go up by the same percentage. So whether Bitcoin's worth 9,000 or 90,000, that's irrelevant to the guy who can't afford either. But the person that can buy $100 worth of something and have an appreciation is now entering into the financial system in a way that they've never had access. They don't have access to stocks and bonds and trading. These digital units and values, whatever you want to call it, it's opening up an opportunity to 98% of the world's population to bring them into an economic system that they've been cut out of before, and it's an equal playing field. $50 a Bitcoin or $50,000 is the same percentage, but a percentage to a guy that only can afford $50, it's a big deal.
Yeah, and the question is how to do it. And Alejandro, you have got a bit different experience because you've been active in developing countries, but not working with governments and authorities. You've got ambassadors in places like Venezuela, right? So how is it difficult to convince people there on the ground to be, active and evangelize the use of cryptocurrency?
When you consider Bitcoin as the thing that invented blockchain, and you can read something like social use cases of blockchain for emerging economies, there is no something bigger than Bitcoin. So it should be the first thing to explain how Bitcoin is solving people crossing a border when there is a war with their money stored in their brain in the passphrase with BIP39 protocol, for example. So at this point, we are focusing in these developing countries, but not in the point of view of CBDCs, because we want from the lowest side for the people who really who is having a really big problems with their not even the banking.
How do you reach these people?
These people already has a problem with their financial situation, so we don't reach. We just are teaching these people who are having a very big problems with their banking network and the financial system. So they eventually come because it's the option B for their fiat currency that is no longer working.
And I suppose in Venezuela it's a no-brainer because the situation is so bad that people are can get easily convinced. But I was wondering, how do you gain the trust of people to be using cryptocurrencies in developing countries?
The onboarding issue, customer acquisition is the hardest issue for any company. Into these developing worlds, it's point of entry. Just like what Acon's done is they found an existing point of entry. Minutes were a trusted source. Now you can move minutes to a digital one. It's points of entry in existing processes that you can move over. But the interest is there, some of the education is there, the onboarding processes are still complicated. I think as the interfaces and wallets and the ability to do things get easier, more people will come online. It's somewhat education, it's somewhat institutional, but a lot of it is interface. How do they more easily get online to participate in something that they've heard about but don't know? And I think it's getting easier.
Do you think brand plays an important role here? The recognition of the brand. So, for example, people will know Acoin or.
I think it's messaging overpowers brand. You can have a great brand and a horrible message, and Apple's got a great brand and has issues, and Zillow's got a great brand and is in real estate, has nothing to do. It's execution and messaging that'll get you traction.
Do you agree, message over brand?
Of course not. Because actually, if we are talking about the social impact on actually accepting the currency, digital currency, anyway, what kind of digital currency, we should bring the value first. We should give them an access to water, to food, to the basic digital education. If they get it, they won't think about what kind of nature of payment they used to get it. Mm-hmm. Either they pay by Bitcoin or they pay by digital currency. They got an access to the basic stuff. And currently, they simply don't have it. I mean, $1, €1 per day per person can change their life drastically. That's the social impact. So our job is to distribute the cash in any form to those who need it.
Mm-hmm. Alejandro, when it comes to your experience, when it comes to trust and the actual users, to build the trust with them?
Actually, if you are a user of a digital currency because your country starts developing a digital currency, and your country really needs right now this digital currency, it's probably because a lot of people inside were already using Bitcoin.
Yeah. And
you as a central bank realize that people need a very faster kind of money. So probably the use case came much before than you needed, so CBDC is very, very late.
Excellent. We're running out of time. Thank you so much for coming to this panel. Thank you, Alex, Alejandro. Thank you, Stephen. And I wish you very good the rest of the conference. Have a good day. Have a good evening as well. Thank you.